Hello, friends. I'm about to share a video that is very meaningful, very tender for me. And I want you to just know on the front end that in this video, I'll be sharing a story that includes child loss and the grief that follows. If that's a subject that feels too heavy or too tender for you to listen to, I just want you to know this on the front end so that you can make your choices about whether or not to follow along with me. But the story also includes deep joy and inspiration and passion and some really powerful ways that you can contribute to really, really good work being done in the world. So if you'd like to sail with me on this voyage, come along, listen up, let's go. Hello, friends. Welcome back to Heartscapes, where we're learning the system of Reiki to live lives that are rooted, that are spacious, that are connected, that help us to remember ourselves. My name is Michaela. Welcome back to the studio. Well, today is a special installment of our Reiki Storytime series because we are on a special anniversary today. I want to share with you the story of a child who I've never met, and yet, nevertheless, for the last 2 years has been a source of deep inspiration and just powerful connection for me in my life and for people all across the world. His story is one of bravery, it's one of pain, it's one of transcendence, it's one of coming to truly know oneself and one's purpose and to enact that purpose in the world in a way that makes a tangible difference. And I want to share this story with you because it has made a difference in my life and in the lives of many other people. And you have an opportunity to contribute to that difference. There are very simple, accessible ways that I'm going to invite you to help carry on this story in a way that is meaningful to people's lives in the world. So stick with me. It's a special one. And as maybe you can already hear in my voice, I'm not sure I'm going to get through this one without some tears. But there'll be tears for all the right reasons. And I hope that you'll see that as we go along. So, friends, let me introduce you to Kori Stovell, or as he's known to myself and to his fans all across the world, Captain Kori. Captain Kori was a 10-year-old boy when I first encountered him on YouTube, where I spend a great amount of my entertainment time. Kori was born with a unique heart condition known as hypoplastic left heart syndrome. Essentially, in layman's terms, he was born with half of a functioning heart. This is a challenging and daunting prognosis for any child and any child's family. And Kori's mother, Pixie Stovell, stepped into the role of protector and advocate for this tiny little child from the day of his birth. Pixie is an amazing person. I hope to be able to introduce her to you as well on her YouTube channel, The Crap Goth. And she's a person that I have developed so much admiration and love for, even though we have never met. They live in the UK, and I've only met her through YouTube and through messaging. But I have been so inspired by the way that she stepped into this role of protector and advocate and just fierce cheerleader for her little boy from the day he was born with this severe condition. She's an amazing goth woman covered with tattoos and piercings and pink hair, and she's just fierce and powerful and has one of the biggest, most powerful, generous hearts of anybody I have ever met. We'll talk more about Pixie in a little bit. But back to Kori. This prognosis is daunting for any child, but is one that in most cases can be overcome through a series of surgeries and procedures and treatments of various kinds. But at some point in Kori's journey, when he was very young, it became clear that he had a severe version of this illness and that he was going to have to be treated in a more severe way. He needed a heart transplant. Miraculously, they found a donor for him, and when he was about 6 years old, he received his first heart transplant. The surgery went well. It seemed to be fine and be working and obviously correct this challenge. But over time, it became clear that his body was rejecting this heart, that the transplant was ultimately a failure. And he was facing the prognosis of having to need a second heart transplant. Around age of 9 or 10 or so, he miraculously was matched with another donor, another child whose family just made the ultimate gift, the ultimate extension of human connection, and offered their child's heart to Kori. He had his second heart transplant, and this time it was a rough road. It was a much harder surgery. It was a much harder recovery. It did not go well. And at a certain point, even though he was so very, very young, and even though he had lived such an isolated life, spending most of his life in hospital, Kori made a decision. He did not want to have a third transplant. If it came down to having another heart transplant surgery or taking that final ship out to sea, that he would take the journey of the unknown. He did not want to go through that again. So that's what his family was facing when his second heart began to go into failure, and he had to go into palliative care at the age of 10. This was incredibly difficult. Of course, there's no point in even trying to offer words to describe something that I haven't lived. It was the unthinkable situation for this family. And understandably, Kori's mental health was in a very, very precarious place. And that is when the absolute angels at the Make-A-Wish Foundation stepped in. If y'all have a chance to support or to engage with the Make-A-Wish Foundation in any way, please do. This organization that grants the dying wishes of children, they're miracle makers. They create conditions for joy and sustenance and happiness and miraculous experiences for kids who have the greatest need. Kori had 2 wishes. He wanted to meet his idol, Captain Jack Sparrow. He was, after all, a pirate at heart, our little Captain Kori. He had been raised going to the Goth Festival on Whitby Island in the UK, a beautiful coastal town that really embodied and reflected the spirit of the pirate aesthetic, and hosted this incredible Gothic festival every year, twice a year, still does. And this is where his family would vacation, would travel, would be with people like them and connect with people. It was where he got to see people who looked like his mother, who had the incredible audaciousness to be themselves and to be in community in that way, and to share love and passion for all things eccentric, Gothic, pirate in this way. As a cosplay kid, as a person whose job is about 50% to be weird in public, I just deeply resonate with that experience. So he was a pirate at heart. This was his aesthetic. This was his absolute orientation towards life. And as such, his family deeply loved the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. And his first wish was to meet his hero, Captain Jack Sparrow, who was, of course, Johnny Depp in his Captain Jack attire. And that did indeed happen. Johnny donned the Captain Jack clothing for the first time in quite some time, and had a beautiful call with Kori, and Kori got to meet his idol, and it was an amazing thing. His second wish was to be a real YouTuber. As a kid who was absolutely isolated as a child, who had very little contact with the outside world, who could never really go to school outside of a handful of occasions, he was just incredibly isolated. YouTube, which is a space where people can show up. I mean, obviously there's performance, obviously there's choreographing that happens here on YouTube, but in many instances, people kind of show up as themselves and offer an opportunity to connect, to invite people into their own world, into their own perspectives. And this was a lifesaver for Kori, to be able to have some feeling of contact with a wide group of people across the interests that he had in the sphere of YouTube. And he had dabbled with making, little videos in a little child fashion. But he dreamed of being a real YouTuber. And for that, for him, that meant receiving 100,000 subscribers, which gets you the coveted silver play button award through YouTube. And so Captain Jack Sparrow stepped in to help with the second wish as well. And he put out the call to the internetverse for people to follow Kori's channel, Kraken the Box. Kraken as in the sea creature, the box as in it was an unboxing channel. And interesting timing of that. You may or may not have followed the fact that there was a very high profile trial having to do with Johnny Depp. And there were a wide number of people who do legal commentary, known colloquially as LawTube, lawyer YouTubers who follow trials, high profile trials, who had followed that trial and were, connected in that way to whatever Johnny Depp was up to. And they started putting out the call as well. And that's where I came in, because I am a LawTube fan. I do enjoy myself a good bit of snarky trial coverage. And that is where I encountered this story, the invitation to subscribe to Kraken the Box to support this child and his dream of being a real YouTuber. Well, I tell you what, the internet delivered for Captain Kori, because overnight, within 24 hours of Johnny's video, that kid reached his 100,000 subscribers and surpassed it very quickly, hitting over 200,000 subscribers at its peak. All of a sudden, this kid was a real YouTuber with a whole YouTube verse of fans out there all across the world. And let me ask you, what do you think that kid did with his sudden fame and his sudden platform? He could have done anything with it. He could have been as self-indulgent as anybody, right? We were all there to support him. We didn't really care what videos he put on YouTube. We just wanted the kid to have his wish come true. But what he chose to do was to use his platform for generosity, for outreach, and for awareness building, for the need for child organ donation. His Kraken the Box unboxing channel, which was, really him opening up, whatever toys or whatever he had received on a given day, became a charity donation channel, a place where people could send donations of all kinds, diapers, toys, food, whatever was being requested from local charities, from local food pantries, from local hospitals, in particular children's hospitals. Of course, their focus was on places that serve terminally ill children. And the donations flooded in. And it became this communal joy, this communal joy to watch this kid open in his pirate costume, his hat, opening these gifts and talking about where they were going to be donated, and just overflowing with the overwhelming abundance of it all. His mother, Pixie, along with him for every video, supporting him, helping him to speak publicly for the first time. This kid who was so isolated, who's now speaking to hundreds of thousands of people about generosity and about awareness and about the importance to be kind to each other. And it was really daunting for him. It was hard for him to speak sometimes. And Pixie was right at his side, helping him to get through it. It was incredible to be on this journey with him. We all got to see the moment when he unboxed his own silver play button that his mother had snuck into the pile of gifts that he was opening that had just arrived that night from YouTube. The unbridled pride and joy on that kid's face when he opened that play button. And we looked out into the camera at all of us who were there with him and said, thank you. So for about a year, I followed his journey and I unboxed with him and I sent him things, and so did many, many, many other people. And along with the unboxing and the gifting and the pranks, because he was such a cheeky little prankster, that Kori, always playing tricks on his mom, always playing tricks on everybody, always saying naughty things when he could get away with it. Absolutely hilariously funny, snarky little kid. In between all of that, there would be these moments where this family would share their journey, would share what, little tiny glimpses of what it was like to be living through this experience and living towards an inevitable outcome that they knew was coming. It's quite an experience. Here we are, you and I, on YouTube. And you're a viewer here, looking for information, for entertainment, for connection, whatever it is that you're here for. And I'm here, a person with a business and with a mission and with a passion to share with you. And for the most part, I'm sharing myself, curated through this lens. But I'm sharing, my real self to the degree that I can with you. And YouTube is a unique place. It's a curated space, to be sure, but it's also a space where we're invited to show up in whatever way is comfortable for us. And in this case, this family chose to show up in a way that offered a glimpse into what it's like to be a family raising a child who is terminally ill. And I'll let Pixie tell you that story herself. Of course, the link to her channel, The Crap Goth, and to Kori's channel, Crack in the Box, will be down below. I'll also link that video where he opens that play button. It's a pretty long unboxing video, but somewhere in the middle there is the moment you'll be waiting for. But these moments of honesty and of connection that really built a community and built a space where other families who are going through similar things found communion, found solace, found fellowship, found information, found resources, found advocacy and passion for what they were going through. Kori knew that his mama Pixie was going to need a mission, was going to need somewhere to put her attention, was going to need somewhere to put her deep love and passion once he had set sail for the final time. And so he gave her a mission, and he gave us a mission to help Pixie's channel reach 100,000 subscribers as well, so she could join him in the silver play button. And more importantly, to grow the platform for advocacy about mental health, physical health needs in the UK and across the world, for the need for information and outreach around child organ donation and support for families going through these unspeakable, unthinkable experiences. Pixie is hard at work creating the Captain Kori Foundation that will do just that. And in a moment, I'll share with you one of the first official projects of the Captain Kori Foundation, a very simple way that you can be in support. But the first way that you can be in support, the simplest, the absolute no-brainer, simplest, easiest, absolutely free way that you can be in support of these endeavors is to subscribe to both of those channels, to the Crap Goth and to Crack in the Box, where you can learn much, much more about this story. This story has a challenging crescendo, not an ending, but a crescendo. Because 1 year ago today, Captain Kori set sail. He left this world, stepped onto his pirate ship, and left. He left a gaping wound in his family's hearts. One that Pixie shares very honestly on her channel, in a way that, again, brings solace and camaraderie and fellowship to many other families who are going through the same. Kori died in July of last year. I never met the kid. But on this anniversary week, I feel him. Many of us do. And somehow, through that mission and that passion that Kori inspired in Pixie, Pixie was able to coordinate the release of something special for this week. A way that she could put her grief and her story into a tangible form that can continue to do good in the world. And that is a children's book. Captain Kori and the Heart Full of Courage. There he is, little Kori. This is an absolutely lovely book, a collaboration with an artist in the US who created these delightful illustrations. And it tells Kori's story in this really powerful blend of honesty about the facts of this child's story. And, you know, wrapped in the whimsy and the fantasy and the magic that we need out of a children's story. And with an emphasis on inspiring children to find in their hearts generosity and kindness and connection as well. It's a fantastic little book. It's one that I recommend for you it should be in hospitals, it should be in libraries, it should be in K-12 schools. And I will put a link to where you can get your copy of it down below as well. In doing so, you'll support the Captain Kori Foundation. You will support the incredible work that is being done and will continue to be done through these efforts. And you'll show a grieving mother how much it means to the world that she's honest about what she is going through. And it's another point of connection. As I said at the beginning, the system of Reiki embodies in us the conditions of living our lives rooted, spacious, connected, and that helps us remember ourselves. Kori's story is one of organically walking a path that led to the cultivation of those conditions within him and within his family. With Pixie, with her loving husband, John, with her daughters, Ostara and Ebony. This family who has been through the absolute hardest thing that anyone can imagine, and yet turns again and again towards love and generosity. The amount of grounding and rootedness that takes, even on the days when they feel absolutely unrooted, which is honestly most days. But the ability to come back to purpose, come back to mission, to open their hearts to become spacious enough to share these very private things with the world, to invite us in. And invite us in not so that we can, feel sorry or have sympathy or join them in the grief, but yes, joining them in the grief, but for the purpose of connection. That ultimate condition of the heart that is the purpose of practicing the system of Reiki, to live our lives feeling deeply connected to ourselves, to each other, to the world. I've learned more about how to embody Reiki in the world from being in relationship with this family, from watching their journey, from joining with them, from letting my heart be connected through the computer rather than just viewing them as something distant. I've watched Kori through the way that he shared with us on YouTube, from those very first videos when he was terrified and yet so excited to finally be able to speak to the world from this isolated place that he had lived his life. I've watched him remember the wholeness of his true self. That's what I'm here to do for myself and to help others do the same. Through a structured system of practice that it took me years to learn, there are many, many pathways to these ultimate outcomes. Kori found his own way. He found his own way to remember the wholeness of his true self. And we're lucky enough to go along, to be along for that journey. So, to you, my dear friend, I'm going to invite you into this story as well. If you go back on Kori's channel, you can meet this incredibly joyful and mischievous and infectious little child. You can meet his mom, you can meet his sisters and his dad. On Pixie's channel, you get to know Pixie and all of her silliness, her randomness. She calls her channel the channel of randomness. Some days it's unboxing, some days it's vlog, family stuff, some days it's middle of the night, raw, rough, grieving honesty. All of it. A full life presented on YouTube and presented as a legacy that was granted to her from her child who knew that she was going to need something to dedicate herself to in his name. The Captain Kori Foundation is rising. It's slow. It's challenging to start a foundation, to start a nonprofit, even if you're a well-resourced group of people, let alone a grieving family. But they're making those strides and they're taking those steps. And this book is one of the first ways that we, the public, can support the growth of this foundation that will be absolutely dedicated to the support and the uplift of families going through unthinkable struggles with terminal illness of their children. So I invite you to follow along. The simplest thing you can do is like and subscribe to those two channels to help increase visibility of the message. You can purchase the book. If you feel inspired, hey, purchase a stack of them. Give them to all the places in your life that need a story of inspiration and generosity such as this. Find her on Facebook, on the Crap Goth, a group where she shares all of this, and so much incredible community has been built around this story in that space. I love being a part of this group. So this has been Reiki Story Time, a very special story, one of a very special kid, very special family, one that I feel incredibly honored to have some connection with through these YouTube streets. And I hope you found a little bit of inspiration in this retelling. And I invite you to really think about the places in your life where you draw inspiration from other people's stories. We live in times of great uncertainty and fear. And what I have found to be true is that when we feel ourselves to be isolated, a single strand buffeted by the wind, we can feel very helpless, isolated, afraid. But when we find ourselves in community, when we connect, when we lean into the wider web of life, when we begin to live our lives rooted, spacious, and connected, when we start to remember the wholeness of our true selves, well, we start to feel the truth that the web is much stronger than the individual strand. Where are the places in your life where you feel those points of connection, where you feel the way in which people are building strength and resilience inside of community? Let's uplift those stories. I want to continue this series. I want to specifically highlight these moments that are there to uplift us. If you know of a story that uplifts you, that is something that needs to be shouted out, people who are doing work that help others to live rooted, spacious, connected lives, please let me know so I can share it here on this platform. It feels like something that I can do in the midst of all of these challenging times to remind us that we are stronger together and that there are so many of us who are doing so much to make this world better, to make us resilient as a people, in spite of whatever happens around us. So friends, that's my message today. Thank you so much for listening. Please share below the things that are uplifting you today. Please share this video. Please, please, please support Pixie. Support the Captain Kori Foundation. Hear this story from their own mouths. It matters. And I hope that you've been inspired today. And as you go into your day, may you feel deeply, deeply provisioned for whatever it may bring you. Thank you so much for being with me this evening as the light is waning outside and it becomes evening. It's a beautiful, beautiful evening. Thanks so much for being with me. Until next time, I love you. Goodbye.